I'm Jodie, a relationship and sex therapist based in Southern California, and today we are continuing the Love Island reaction series with episode 15. We are picking up right after the America's Vote, like the after recoupling. We had the recoupling with the mailboxes, and then we did the America's Vote to see who was actually going to be potentially leaving the villa. So we kind of know that that eventually always comes shortly after recoupling. Gabrielle and Sol were chosen to be kind of banished or whatever to leave the villa. And so we're seeing the aftermath of that. They had not left yet, so it does show them kind of talking to everybody, packing up their things, everyone being sad, etc. Thing that is staying in the villa is all the lingering feelings of the remaining islanders about who got sent off. This, I think, is a hot topic around this because the boys were not making themselves look really good right now. I talked in the last episode about just how these decisions are made. Is it based off of, the popularity contest of who are the OGs versus who's actually in a connection, who has the chance to find a connection? There's no right or wrong way to choose between those, and between the men and women, they kind of ended up going the opposite routes. So it definitely was potentially going to rub a couple of feathers because the women kind of chose, like the realer route. The boys may not agree with that, but what I really didn't like was, and again, this is not a man-specific thing, but there do tend to be trends. Part of this is also just how we're socialized. Women can definitely have their feelings and do not great things with those feelings, as we've seen with like Melanie and Kenzie. And we're not saying that every emotion is logical or whatever makes sense. However, what the boys were really doing, I think they're allowed to have their feelings. What I didn't like was what they were doing with their feelings. They were becoming kind of nasty with the women and just making comments like saying like Jen isn't even really sad. She's literally trying to hold herself together and you could see that she has tears in her eyes. Oh, but she isn't really sad. And then threatening to like not make breakfast for the girls the next morning. And just like a lot of these like backhanded comments and like starting shit with them, and I am not a fan of that. That's a clear sign of emotional insecurity.
Are you all going to pull Caleb for a chat tomorrow and get to know him? Are you all going to get to know him now? Because you forced Kenzie on him because that was your fault. Go on, I want to see you all talk to him tomorrow and try and give him a fair shot.
That make y'all feel better. I'll go talk to him.
I'm not mad, but I'm using your logic. I'm not mad at all.
Zach was doing it a lot. Like Sincere was kind of making little under his breath kind of comments, like not to the women, basically saying, oh, now they're acting like that because they got called out, basically saying that they were the one that was in the wrong. No, I don't think they were wrong. I was not surprised at all that Gabrielle got kicked off. Again, I'm not here to judge whether what he was doing was right or wrong, but I could see how it's probably made out with the most amount of people, like outside of the kind of challenges. Because again, the challenges you kind of get a pass, but I mean, he was pulling everybody for chats, all of the bombshells. And so of course people are going to question, like, are you authentic? Are you really here for the right reason? So I was not surprised by that at all. The same thing, the boys also had the same conversation about Kenzie. So to then throw it in the girls' face that they ended up going with that decision, the same one the boys were considering, like they considered the same thing with Kenzie and said, hey, Kenzie's been like, she was with one person and she was with Corbin, Caleb came in, then she was going back and forth between Corbin and Caleb, and had the same exact thoughts. They just didn't go with that decision. So again, I understand that Gabrielle is their boy and they've gone really close. He's been there for a while and they believe him and they like him as a guy. Sure. However, just because you don't like the outcome doesn't give you permission to act that way. They did end up making breakfast for them the next day, but again, if I'm them, I'm clocking this kind of stuff of what is this going to look like when you get into an argument? What's this going to look like when they feel insecure? And these are the kind of things you're going to kind of see come out that can be a problem. Have they had conflicts? What happens? Are you going to be dismissive? Are you going to kind of like just treat me badly like I'm a person you don't care about? Like not making breakfast because you made a choice is holding on to something. That's a toxic behavior. I don't agree with you, but I'm going to respect your decision and I'm not going to like withhold love or care from you. So these are kind of signs of emotional immaturity and just, it was disrespectful. I was not a fan of that at all. It gave me the ick. We did see before that Casey was one of the voices like saying, I do feel kind of bad for Sol because because whether or not it's because he was interested in her, but there was definitely a lot of human aspect of him saying, hey, like, she really didn't get a fair shake. The same reason that the women kept Caleb of, hey, like, Caleb is a super nice guy who really didn't get an opportunity to explore much in here, as is a constant issue with the bombshells. Casey, of course, was feeling also bad for Soul. I think other people did too. It's just, was that going to overshadow their love for their bro? Casey ended up talking to Soul, apologizing and just saying, hey, I know that this isn't fair. It doesn't feel right. I commend him for that. Again, I know there's been a little bit of like, what are Casey's intentions, things like that, but I still think that being a nice human is important. Again, this has just been a theme, whether we are saying it's age, it's emotional maturity, which, the things sometimes go together, sometimes they don't. I did not like that Kenzie was not able to take accountability, because they're going to start questioning themselves right after this. Like, who were the couples that America didn't like and didn't vote for and put up to be vulnerable, and they almost went home. And, you definitely want to take that time and reflect on, why am I down there? What is it about me or my couple that America wasn't feeling? I'm not surprised, because it's just been a theme. Really wasn't able to have a lot of accountability. She doesn't have to agree, but it doesn't hurt to reflect. Again, both Gabrielle and Kenzie's rebuttal is, well, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing on the show? I think there's a big difference between getting to know somebody and like the physical aspect of things. I think there's nothing wrong necessarily with being physical, but you have to also understand that there are going to be components of like, hey, it's starting to feel like we're just kind of messing around here. And then Kenzie's trying to say, I'm not lustful. I'm like, girl, I was literally saying, like, you seem really horny on this show. Again, no shade on you, but let's at least own it. That you keep talking about how hot everybody is, and you keep me wanting to be really touchy with them, and we're kind of messing around in the bed, things like that. Just own it. Just own that that's what it is. We're not trying to cast judgment, even though there is sometimes some judgment that comes along with those things, but at least just own, hey, that does seem to be part of her personality. She's really driven and kind of leaning into like the physical aspects of her relationship. And so, right or wrong, people are questioning, hey, is this authentic, or are you just with Corbin because he's hot? Is this kind of more of a toxic kind of thing where Caleb's like the ready to go, a little bit safer option, and we're choosing the kind of more dangerous guy? She wasn't really getting a lot of points from me with like just kind of not taking the feedback maybe from America. We're in the society of like, you really want to be careful, not listen to all the like people online. There maybe is a little smidgen of something that we can take into consideration and just be like, why was I perceived that way? Oh, I didn't mean to come off that way, or that's not my intention, sure, but I could see how it would come off that way. I talk to people a lot, my couples around, what we're asking for is influence, and you don't have to take the influence, right? You don't have to accept it, but really all we're looking for at a minimum most of the time is just take the information, mull it over, like legitimately mull it over, not from a defensive place, and see if it's something that maybe makes sense. That's all we're asking. And so I really think that she could have benefited from that. If multiple people are kind of saying the same thing, there is maybe something to say, hey, what is that? What's that about? This one was pretty funny. We did see Zach and Bryce have a very close relationship. We did see a moment there where like Bryce like opening his shorts and like Zach is looking in and like he's like trying to show him, and I'm like, that's interesting. And then you see a conversation later where they're actually talking about it. I'm not fully surprised. I think this is kind of an example of why like it's so funny that so many men are like just weirded out by like gay stuff. Men are like do some of the most gay behaviors. Again, it doesn't mean that we're having sex with other men, but like just to be able to lean in on like even behaviors like this, there's nothing wrong with these kind of things. Like just own that we do it. It doesn't mean we want to sleep with those people. You get really close with your friends. You get very comfortable with them, and like that is a form of intimacy. So there's nothing wrong with these things, but it's just really funny when you kind of start to see like homophobia and stuff. And I think a lot of the younger generation is getting a little more comfortable with that stuff, but still sometimes there's like this like lack of identity and insecurity that can kind of come in. That's just really fascinating to see. But we're kind of surprised when that stuff happened. We're always like, what are you doing? And I'm sure people will have thoughts about that, how you should be engaging, if they should be doing that, whatever. But they're just having fun. They're just being close with their friends. They want to kind of beef up their bravado and be like, yeah, that was me at half hardness. Yeah, that thing's pretty good size, man. Like it's just a way that they're bonding, sure, and maybe building up their confidence. Nothing wrong with that. But it is just kind of a funny thing to discuss on like how men interact with each other. And sometimes women do the same thing, right? I was just watching a different show, and they're all jumping in the ocean together with no shirts on. Nothing wrong with these things. I think it's also a little bit more normal for guys, because I feel like, I don't know about everybody else, but like men are a little bit more used to like being in locker rooms and things together, whereas like I did not grow up in a place where that was normal for women that I didn't know to be in a locker room like together. We didn't have that at school. Maybe that is something that's comfortable, but like that was not something I have never grown up with. Whereas I know like men, I mean, they don't even have stalls, whereas women, we're all all in stalls in the bathroom. Or men, they're literally next to each other, seeing each other's, business all the time. So it is also like just an interesting kind of thing and how that all works. Then we moved into the challenge, which was a fairy tale theme. So we had them kind of dressed up as like prince and princesses. Of course, there's always some kind of like splashing and like messiness that happens with just like goo or whatever. And then of course we have like the questions and things. There was nothing super of note for me on the challenge. It was just cute and seeing like, oh, who chose who. The ending of it, so they have like ending with like a Cinderella kind of theme of like, oh, they've got to take the stockings off and do some kinky stuff with the feet and then like put the slipper on whoever their person is. It's very interesting because they're actually like promoting like, feet stuff, and it's always interesting to see how people respond. There was a couple of them, they're kind of engaging but like really reserved or like kind of avoiding the feet and more focusing on the legs, and because they're like, that's just not my thing, that's kind of gross. Fair. And then we had like the, this is not something I'm into. Bryce was definitely number one. He was not hiding it at all. He was like, this is my thing. I'm all about the feet.
Oh, yeah. Freshly shaved, I see.
Oh my God.
Hey, we're not here to kink shame. You do you. As long as everybody's consenting, have a great time. Caleb was also getting pretty into it. Do we know if Caleb's actually interested in feet? Who knows? But maybe he was just kind of getting into it because he's in his single days right now, trying to maybe live it up and kind of bring out that more macho side of him that's like, hey, you want this. And then we had Zach. I wasn't really sure if Zach was actually feeling the feet or if he was just kind of playing around and just being in the moment. The winner on that one was definitely Bryce, and everybody was talking about it and everybody knew it. They all kind of knew that in advance, like he was into the feet. So that was a Bryce challenge for sure. Zach was able to get some payback on Bryce by popping the balloon thing over his head. I thought Bryce handled that very well. Not only the popping over the head, but then later on in the challenge, he actually nominated Trinity to make out with Zach. So to kind of make up for him like pulling Kayda and attempting shooting his shot with Kayda, like he kind of made up and said, I'll offer up my woman if she's open to it, just to show good faith. Originally Trinity chose not to, but then I don't know whether she changed her mind and thought it was okay, or like checked in with them and they were like, oh yeah, go ahead. Peer pressure, who knows? But she did end up making out with Zach, and all was good. Hopefully that chapter is closed and they're, they've kind of gotten some closure on that. I don't remember really liking Zach's brother Charlie on last season either, but there's definitely some sides of Zach that I don't care for. And again, they're definitely insecurities. Everybody's got them, but again, it's what he does kind of with the insecurities that I'm really like, I'm not really feeling that. He was one of the ones that was really kind of taking some like jabbing comments about them choosing Gabrielle. The comments he makes, he like won't let it go. She like, Kayda's like responding wrong in these challenges and like, oh, she was too excited about that. Oh, she wrapped the legs around him. Like all of the girls are doing that. She's not doing anything that other girls aren't doing, and she's just having fun and living in the moment. It's not meant as a disrespect to Zach, but he really seems to struggle with handling these things, and it's definitely something to kind of watch. He's also been the one that keeps bringing up like, I don't think that he's really interested in somebody else or like wanting somebody else to come in. I think he's really in on Kayda, but I think that insecurity is really kind of sabotaging him a little bit, where he feels like mostly secure with her, but then like he'll make these little comments like a couple times, like, the hideaway, they just finished having sex and he's like, oh, what would it be like if like we found a bombshell now? And it's like, bad timing, man. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he just kind of keeps leaving these options open, which I don't think it's because he wants those options. I think it's because he's afraid, and so he's kind of like dropping little things. The insecurity was just not it for me. Halo, of course, as we're talking about, he chose Kayda for the challenge to make out with her. It's kind of expressing that he's kind of interested in her. Decided to pull her for a chat.
Hello. Do you want to go talk? Yeah. Is that cool with you? Yeah, go for it. Just no legs over the back.
They were open to kind of just getting to know each other and talking, and like nothing like super romantic was happening. But of course, there we have Zach like kind of spiraling out.
Motherfucker. That southern bastard. Wait, which one say less?
Say less is the green. The private won't be able to see.
A bit romantic.
Oh, they've been over there for a really long time. Like, I know that you're uncomfortable, but you gotta sit in it. You're just talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. All you're doing is making yourself look more and more insecure. Distract yourself. Do anything but focusing on them, because all you're doing right now is throwing up red flags that like as soon as you start to feel insecure, that you're like putting like dart eyes at her or him or whatever. And it's just, again, we gotta keep an eye on that kind of stuff. We did have some kind kind of continuing KC drama. You know, we already had some kind of questions. Okay, was he interested in her? Why didn't he pursue her? Anaya was kind of having her insecure moments around like, hey, am I just your safe choice? What's going on? After the letters got read for the recoupling, like they felt solid again. It kind of came up again in the challenge.
Which prince is playing the role of the hero, but is actually the villain? Oh. Some act a big talk of commitment and treasures, but in reality, their intentions seem hidden. Sir KC, I apologize. He is a hero, but thou's intentions confuse thee.
Intentions. Okay.
They felt like Casey, like, and again, whether it was because it was a legitimate thing or just because it was an easy way to answer the question because they recently had some issues, who knows, and is perking up the ears again for Anaya, and also like him feeling like overly sympathetic with Soul. I think this is just like a lose-lose situation, unfortunately for him. I think he was just being human with Soul, but then you also get like his individual interviews and stuff where he's, or talking to people where he's like, you know, I kind of feel bad I didn't give her a chance, and maybe I should have explored that, and so I also understand why Anaya's feeling insecure, and it's the point of the show. It's tricky because that was something that was being talked about. Trinity actually did spill the beans with Anaya that KC was the one who, because of course she didn't know this before, that KC was one of the people that was voting for not getting Soul off the villa.
Obviously, when they had the decision to vote for Soul or whatever, Casey was one of the only people that did want to keep Soul.
You know, she's like, wait a second, like, what is this?
I look like a dumbass.
Are you playing the savior right now? Are you saving her because you wanted to pull her for a chat, or you felt bad for her, or what's the deal, and how am I supposed to feel about that? So that's kind of where we ended up. They're kind of backsliding a little bit, but we'll see if it really catches any traction there. The tea is still going, and we'll see what happens next.